My name is Cameron Marsh with Nucleus Research, here with
Rebecca Kennedy
and
Jaroslaw Pietraszko.
Awesome. So I guess just to kick things off, if you could, if you will, just sort of walk you through your journey with Zoho, sort of from start to finish is what our goal is here. So if you could just start off by saying, first, how long you've been with Zoho, maybe some of the applications you have, and just what your experience has been like.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm right now a Chief Information Officer for the IFFCO Group based out of Dubai in United Arab Emirates. I've been with the company for 9 years, and our journey with Zoho started really in 2019 when we were looking for a solution to improve our expenses, which was very manual process spread across 50 different countries. Each and every country used to have a different rules and different regulations, different policies. And that was the idea. Yeah, we should probably look into the global solution. We evaluated 3 options, like self-development or going for one of the major players in this particular application categories, which are very often tied to one of the ERP vendors, or to go for something which is independent. As we are at that point of time in some kind of transition between the 2 ERPs, the option to go for something independent was probably the preferable. That's one thing. The second thing is we wanted to really change the way how the people used to claim the expenses. This whole manual process to be completely digitized and as possible mobile friendly. And this is where the Zoho Expense was meeting our expectations from the functional standpoint. What we also learned during evaluation of the software, we believe that the total cost of the ownership of this particular product is going to really give us a significant benefits. This is where we started. We really implemented that in 3 months for the UAE, and then we started rollouts to the other countries. Currently, it is used in 50 different countries. We started obviously with the travel and the travel expenses, then we expanded that to the employee expenses, and then the petty cash expenses, where we significantly reduce any cash transactions in the company. I think in global around 90%. Because in some of the countries, obviously, we sometimes operate on a very emerging markets where, unfortunately, without the cash, you cannot survive. So that was not possible. Till now, I would say we've been already 5 years using the system, and I have to admit that still we believe that was one of the best decisions we have taken from this kind of strategic shift of, first of all, having the mindset of self-development, that it's more flexible. Then we realized that in fact Zoho Expense is not giving us any limitations for whatever we want to implement. But also during that time, we started evaluating other products from the Zoho portfolio. What we brought also is Zoho Analytics. In my opinion, Zoho Analytics is the product which is must-have if you are using any of other Zoho applications. Most of those applications, they have a basic reporting capabilities, but in our case, when we have 50 different countries, different kind of expenses, and you want to really slice, dice, and provide proper roles and the permission to the users to see only the respective data, without the analytics, it is not possible. Then in the meantime, we just came to know about the Zoho Creator application, which we realized that even without any trainings, some of our developers can very easily learn the product and start building some simple application in the beginning, and then also
you've built quite a few now too, yeah?
Yeah, so we have currently 35 different applications which are supporting multiple different functions. Some of them are for logistics. Some of them are, for example, for the visa management, which in the countries like the Middle East, you need to have this kind of strict processes to be followed. We have some kind of trackers for the multiple things, like, for example, corporate procurement tracker. They have a bunch of negotiations. They are entering the initial quotes, then they update the status of each and every negotiation, what is the final price, and with the press of the button, they can get the report which says how many savings they have provided to the company.
And this is, you said, citizen developers. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that looked like in terms of, training and getting people up to speed so that they can develop these apps?
So we do have approach here that we are not giving the users the access to build their own applications. They are all built by the IT team or professional services along with Zoho. For some of the application, we also went for some local partners whenever there was a lot of interactions face-to-face required, but I would say maybe 2-3 applications like that. I will tell you, in most of the cases, we are solving the real business issues. And that's the reason I would say from the adoption, I would not consider that as a big challenge. For example, we are using the application to capture all the potential hazards, which we call the near miss reports. Now, earlier people used to take a note, take a photo, then go create the email report to someone. There is no tracker. Now it's easy. You take a photo, you just enter the information, what it's all about. The GPS location is automatically captured along with this record, and you have all the information. You can also track which of those hazards have been resolved or not. If we are talking about the freezer management, that is where we have a separate cold chain team. We have a separate sales team. Sales team is on the field. They are visiting the customer, but those guys are managing the freezers. All this flow we built as a part of the Zoho, all the communication between the teams, or the request to withdraw the freezer or to install the new one, everything is there. So admin team, all the reception, visitors, very basic. But, when you realize that you don't have to use this book, enter anything manually, where at the end of the month, for example, there is a request from the admin team, can you summarize for me how many people visited us and which departments? And then obviously people who are willing to really start using these solutions.
It sounds like Zoho touches quite a few different parts of your business. Maybe just talk about like the integration between the two, because it sounds like there's probably some data that overlaps in a lot of different places, and having that all in one place is probably, hugely beneficial, solve some headaches. Can we just talk about, what it's been like sort of expanding your total usage with Zoho over the last 5 years?
So I remember, let me start with the Zoho Expense. When we started with UAE only, probably we deployed that to the 500 users. Let me just tell you, adoption was pretty smooth because that was the moment where the COVID hit the world. And, the manual process which we had before, it was not possible to follow. So that's the reason people had to switch into, the regular claims which they do to this mobile application. But then we grown up to 3,400 users used today in the Zoho Expense. And I'm talking users who are using the application. But what we've done also for our field employees, who also sometimes they have the request for the claims, but they don't have to be a regular user because they don't have even, for example, IFFCO Active Directory account. For them, we created the concept of single point of contact on the particular businesses. So they approach this person, most likely from finance department, and they are able to enter this claim against the specific employee, which means all the booking and the reimbursement happens to the right person, not who is the requester, but who is specified. And this is, for example, the functionality which Zoho built along with us, being on this journey as, whenever you have this kind of complex and pretty large organizations, you need to have that. You cannot go with the assumption that everyone will have access. But at the same time, we wanted to stop the access to the expenses at our ERP level, Oracle or SAP, to make sure that everything goes through proper approval flow, depends on the category of the spend through Zoho Expense. In the creator, I think each and every application has a set of users, but probably one of the biggest advantages is that if you provide the license to the user, he can use almost any application he has access to, right? So we don't have to spend the money each and every time separately. And even the development in the Zoho Creator is pretty smooth, and this is what our developers enjoy the most, that solutions can be provided easily. It can be done in a very agile way, which means there can be almost daily meeting with the business stakeholders to show them what they have built in the meantime. So this process is very agile and very well adopted. Zoho Analytics, I would say, obviously, if you want to understand your spend, which earlier was not possible at all, and definitely not at the global scale. Today, you know everything. I can go to one of the category of the businesses like oil and fats, which operates starting from Indonesia, ending in Spain, and through multiple different countries like UAE, Saudi, Pakistan, Egypt, Tunisia. Then, at the corporate level, you can immediately check what are the expenses, what are employee expenses, what are other specific logistic expenses, which are reimbursed to the employees instead of going through the, normal purchase cycle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now you mentioned that automating your expense reporting was a very manual process before, but have there been any other like automations of workflows that have paid, pretty big dividends or saved your employees a lot of time or headaches or both?
Look, so let me bring approval as a good example. When you have, for example, someone sitting in Indonesia who is from the oil and fats business, and they have some marketing spend, then the approval before we implemented Zoho was going to only his line manager, which potentially he was a line manager from the hierarchy perspective, but not functional manager from the, let's say, marketing standpoint. So to get approval from the corporate office in Dubai, they had to exchange multiple emails. The same with finance to confirm that we are within the budget, which is planned for this particular spend, for this particular category. And it was taking sometimes 2-3 weeks, and you had to follow up with the people to get all these approvals in place. Now, everything you have in the system, you know what is pending. You are getting the notifications, you are getting the reminders. We have the escalation process within the Zoho. So I don't know how to calculate that in the dollars, but basically it's right now a working process, which was not working before.
Definitely. It seems like from a high level overview too, there's two things that come to mind from your story you've told so far is that one, technology needs to be scalable, right? You said you started with 500 users, now you're well over 3,000. You've drastically, expanded the amount of applications you're using over the last 5 years. And also one of the things you mentioned in the beginning is TCO, right? And I think a lot of times people immediately think of just licensing costs, but I know there's a lot more that goes into that, right? It's the time cost of your employees waiting 3 weeks to get emails back, things like that. So we just talk a little bit more from like a high level overview, I guess, from the scalability perspective, how important has Zoho been to that and your ability to be agile in your operations now?
So I will tell you, first of all, what I've seen on the event yesterday, which was presented, that right now Zoho is targeting into enterprise applications. I would say Zoho Expense was pretty mature already in 2020. And I think we are a very good example where we were able to implement that in multiple countries with multiple regulations. Again, in very emerging and unpredictable markets when sometimes you have to deploy the changes on the spot. That's one aspect. But when we are talking about the maintenance of the system, very rarely we have any issues reported to the product itself. Most of the problems are reported related to the quality of the data, which means, for example, the particular spend goes to the wrong person. But this is where not really Zoho Expense is let's say, creating the problem, but the source system which we use is a SAP SuccessFactors, where the employee life cycle starts and ends through the whole IFFCO journey with IFFCO. And whenever we have updated data over there, they are synced to Zoho. But sometimes can happen that people are changing their functions in the middle of the expense approval, and then we need to adjust that. So this kind of stuff. Other aspect is we have a heavily integrated Zoho Expense with the Oracle and SAP, two major ERPs we are using at this point of time, where we are exchanging information about the expenses with the automatic booking of those documents, where we're exchanging the information about the reimbursement. This is where we need to be careful that, for example, adding any category on the Zoho Expense, we need to reflect that in the interfaces to make sure that everything flies. But we do not have very dedicated teams specifically to the Zoho Expense. So even having this massive number of users, we have one person who is really coordinating with our support partners whenever something doesn't work, but the effort is, I would say, minimal if I look from the scale perspective of the application. Sometimes we have a very small entities where we deploy the ERP and we have a much more problems to deal and to stabilize that over the time than with the Zoho Expense.
Gotcha. I know one of the things Sridhar talks a lot about is almost democratizing high tech for everyday users. And it kind of sounds like that's been your experience. We've been able to take advantage of some pretty, high level technology, especially with integrations with, the ERPs you're using and stuff that hasn't taken a team of, 50 IT folks to custom code that together, which I'd imagine from a time to value perspective probably paid some dividends. And again, being agile, being able to add pieces to your puzzle as needs arise. We were chatting a little bit off camera about some of your very unique needs to your business, about very specific travel requirements. Maybe just talking a little bit about, maybe some other examples of how you've been able to sort of custom build Zoho to fit needs that maybe are very important to you, but are also very specific to you.
We have a few kind of very interesting expenses in Zoho. One of which comes to my mind is that when a person is leaving the organization, he can get some kind of gift and we can do some party for those employees. But that depends on the duration they spend with IFFCO.
Fair enough.
So there is a different limit.
Yeah.
So this is an example when we also had to bring to Zoho information about when this particular user joined IFFCO, which is not a standard field which flying between the expense but based on that, we were able to build a policy and all the, the system follows that. You choose the employee, system recognize this is the limit you can spend. If you cross the limit, then it goes for the additional approval or it's getting rejected. But if we are talking about the agile way of solving the problems, I think this is a really creator which makes the biggest impact. We, for example, we used to participate in many fairs as one of the executive sponsors, where obviously we have our stand, multiple people coming along, and to support this kind of events, we also built, or we have the application which is evolving each and every event, starting from even collecting the information, how many people from the company is going to visit this event, going through the mass email communication, internal, external. And this is where we can just sit with our business users. We can do these changes to the application almost in a few hours, and we can run it, right? When I would like to develop something like that without using the low code, no code platforms, that would be, I would need to have an army of people. And whenever we are talking about this kind of products, I realize that the 1-2 persons within the digital department, they can really provide so many solutions because of the speed of the deployment.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about any future plans you have, whether that's in developing with the Zoho creator, any projects, anything to expand with Zoho?
I think one of the products which we are looking for right now is analytics, to expand that beyond the sourcing that with the data from the Zoho products. We are on this journey of having 2 different ERPs, and we have 2 different reporting and the dashboarding systems. Both of them semi-optimal. We are looking for building this self-service platform for our users and using one of the cloud solution. And then we would like to give the users the choice, which is their preferable visualization tool. And 2 products come to our mind is Power BI from Microsoft and the Zoho Analytics, because right now it is used and the people are creating some of the reports on the data from Zoho by themselves. And that's something which comes immediately in my mind.
Awesome. Well, I believe we are out of time, but thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.